Welcome back to Talking Europe. Those who risk their lives at sea do not invade, they look for welcome. Those are the words of Pope Francis, lamenting what he called a fanaticism of indifference towards migrants during a recent visit to the melting pot Mediterranean city of Marseille. Now, the Pope's plea packed an extra punch because it comes after some 8,500 people arrived on Italy's southern island of Lampedusa over 3 days, just 3 days in September. Now, the head of the Catholic Church, what did he urge? Greater European cooperation, more legal routes to entry, and better integration for migrants. Now, an EU migrant and asylum pact is 3 years in the making. It aims to address all of these challenges, but it has met stiff resistance across Europe. Populist calls to crack down on illegal migrants are drowning out calls to welcome them. I'm asking today, and I'm asking my guests today, whether the Pope's plea is going to fall on deaf ears in Europe. And my guests are, starting with Malina Björk, you're a Swedish member of parliament from the Left Party, which is of the left. And on my left, but more to the right, I suppose, is
the center.
Sandro Gozzi. You are with the Renew Party, Renew MEP. You're an Italian, but you were elected to the parliament on the French list.
Correct.
The welcoming message of the Pope, he's saying, please, they're not invaders, we're here to welcome them. But in the past few days, we have seen the Italian far-right prime minister send a letter to the German chancellor saying she's astonished that Germany is helping NGOs pay to rescue migrants in the Mediterranean Sea. Is that a welcome? I'll put the question to you, Malin Björk. Is that the political will to welcome migrants?
Well, I think, me and the Pope, we haven't been in agreement on many issues, but on this we are. I think what is happening now is that we have a Mediterranean Sea that is the most deadly it has ever been. And it's more, the fact is that states are stopping search and rescue missions by organizations, and certainly the states are not doing enough of search and rescue. So it's the most deadly sea. When people arrive, instead of having dignified reception conditions and sharing the responsibility for reception and welcoming, countries are throwing the responsibility between them, and they are, we see a rise in, I would say, both racist and xenophobic narratives. And I think we are on the wrong path. And it makes me even more worried when I know that this hasn't worked so far. So when Ursula von der Leyen proposes a continuation of this same failed politics, deadly politics for the Mediterranean, I'm quite disappointed.
And you use the word deadly, and I just want to, Sandro, give you a number here. I know statistics, people's eyes glaze over, but this is a deadly statistic. 2,300 migrants have died or gone missing while trying to cross the Mediterranean from North Africa, also sub-Saharan Africa, towards mostly Italy and Greece. 2,300. Surely there's political will to stop that somewhere. Are you finding it in your party?
I'm always very concerned when we speak about this because I've been in government in Italy for 4 years and a half, and I had the very terrific experience very often to have to go and recognize the dead body of the migrants. So I saw many coffins. And I think that we should always remember that we are first human beings before being member of the government, politician, and member of the parliament. So the fact that we don't save everybody is really shameful. And then it is certainly the consequence of political choices. Giorgia Meloni, for example, the extreme right Italian prime minister, has won the election talking about a naval blockade. Mm-hmm. So she said, I want to block everybody. And it is clear that the reluctance of a country like Italy now in doing everything we can to save life, that has been the case until a few weeks ago, it is certainly a matter of concern. The main point is, however, that if everybody thinks to solve or to escape the problem of migration on its own, we all lose.
We all lose. But here's the thing. You have a far-right prime minister in power who is now up against the reality of migration. She campaigned on blocking migrants. She sees that that is not a possible or realistic policy. How do you change that? Because she's not the only far-right voice in Europe right now. Two countries, Poland and Hungary, don't want anything to do with migrants. They don't even want to pay other countries to do something about migrants. Where do you start with that?
Well, I think, we have a very big responsibility, those of us that actually challenge the far-right narrative. We have to say, well, look, not only the Pope, but many of us think that it's not only our duty to be a welcoming continent, it is a possibility. We showed it with Ukraine. Everyone said it's not possible, it's not possible. Millions of refugees, and it was possible. For me, it is a very positive experience, and that's what we should build upon. And the only way to do it is to share the responsibility. And it means that, of course, Italy should not be left alone. Spain, Malta, no country should be left alone with the reception and dignified welcoming. We should share it. But that's, again, the far right, they are trying to fuel xenophobic, racist sentiments and saying that every problem in society, the raising inequalities, etc., and the difficulty for people to make ends meet in their daily lives. Blame it all, scapegoat the migrants, scapegoat the refugees. So we have a very big responsibility to address the real concerns of people, but at the same time say, your scapegoating is just not okay. And I think saving lives at sea, it's a legal obligation. International law, EU law, this is what we have to do. So not embarking on search and rescue operations, must be pursued in justice,
So a legal, a humanitarian, a moral obligation. Can you get votes in Italy today as a politician if you do not scapegoat migrants? I'm simplifying the question, but if you do not in some way make migrants the guilty party, can you get votes as a politician?
Of course, Giorgia Meloni has won the election promising a blockade, promising to get rid of the migrant, promising a quick fix solution on the migratory issues, whereas there isn't a quick fix solution. There is a humanitarian, international law, European law duty of saving life, and then there are instruments which are in the Asylum and Migration Pact, which are there to manage us, to take back control as European on the migratory flows. That means we have to work more on the country of origin, in my view also using visa, trade agreement, development aid to better cooperate with them on migration. We have to consider the external border as common European border and
outside
not only
the
a
European
border.
Union, yes.
And we have to be serious with solidarity to a country when this country it is exposed to a crisis. But the point that the extreme right wants to create the sentiment of invasion, wants to create the sentiments of urgency, because they don't want to solve at the roots the problem. They want to exploit the problem as political capital. And this in Italy, it is exactly what happened exactly 1 year ago.
And it's working right now. We're hearing right now the language out of Germany that it has a limit to how many migrants it can take in. There's a limit on migration. And I'm wondering, because you think back to 2015, 2016, under Angela Merkel, Germany took nearly a million migrants. That to me seems like a stark change in the political climate.
Well, I think what is very clear to everyone is that we have to invest in integration. And, there have been different waves in my country, in Sweden, of immigration and refugee arrivals. But it's clear that we have to invest in integration. But we also have to invest in our societies, just like as a baseline. We have to invest, and I think that's where we different, the right and the left wing. Not only doesn't serve to scapegoat migrants and refugees, we have to be fair and look each other in the eyes. Many right-wing governments today in Europe cooperate with the far right, and they buy into the narrative of racism and xenophobia. But they don't, because they don't want to pursue an agenda of more social and economic justice. And I think that will be what can break a society. If societies totally, are pulled apart, then, the capacity to, whether it be to welcome, new arrivals, to deal with climate change issues, anything, we will be so weak. This is the richest continent in the world,
Yeah.
2023.
I want to end
We
with
should manage.
I want to end by returning to this welcoming, this compassion issue. Malin Bjork, you got some headlines back in 2014 when you encouraged passengers not to fasten their seatbelt on a plane because there was a fellow passenger, an Iranian, who was being deported back to Iran. And in protest, you wouldn't fasten your seatbelt. He was transferred to another plane. Ultimately, he got residency in Sweden.
Yeah.
And you could argue thanks to your action. Do you see anyone doing that today in Europe? And what would the reaction be today if you did that, if you did not fasten your seatbelt to protest someone being expelled, an asylum seeker?
Well, I hope the reaction would be still, acceptable, because in his case, he had his, I think his daughter was 6 months old. It was in Sweden, being sent back to Iran, a country where he risked his life, and later he got a residence permit. But the thing is that I think being politically engaged means that you also have to carry your values and try to act upon them. That's my case. But I think we need to be more in the political sphere that are serious about the possibility of making a difference, choosing a different path than the far-right path. And we have to start to construct that future together. And I think that is a common task that we have for the 2024 elections.
And speaking of that, Sandra Gotzi, I was going to give you the last word. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. I will mention, though, as you both know, the European Union is working on a new migration and asylum pact. It has been many years in the negotiation, as I said at the beginning. They're hoping to pass it by April. One word, are you optimistic, Sandra Gotzi, that they will get this new pact through by April?
I'm
One word.
determined, and we must do everything we can to get it before the European election. This is the strong will of Renew Europe and also the French government.
In the next, and Malin
I
Bjork.
only want to see it happen if it has this mechanism of sharing the responsibility.
Sharing the responsibility. We'll end with that idea of sharing. You've been watching Talking Europe, and we're on a theme that we are going to be returning to, I suspect, many times in the weeks and months ahead. Thanks for watching, and thanks to both of you for joining us today here from Brussels.